Morning, everybody. Finally got the chance to sit down once again. I just kind of wanted to go over some initial thoughts on my new radio here, this DX5C. It wasn't what I originally had in mind, but I've run Spektrum radios in the past, and they're good quality. They feel great in the hands. This one's no different. You can see here it's got this little padding on the back side of it here, so it gives it gives a nice good texture for your hand to grip the radio. Keeps the radio from sliding out and falling out. Got a really good feeling trigger here. You've got a couple of these buttons right here. So one of the unique things I've seen with this radio is you can see right here you've got an A, a B, a C over here, a D, and then you've got, zoom in here, a E, F, and a G button right here. So all of these buttons up here are three ways. You can toggle them. There are two ways. You can toggle them this way or this way to do adjustments for your trims, or operate a separate channel. It is a 5C, so it is a 5-channel radio. Can't go into too much detail because, simply put, I'm still trying to figure this thing out myself. It does have a nice display screen here. Let me kick it on right quick so you can see. So that's it kicking on. No backlight display, so that kind of stinks. But it's got a timer, and then you've got a whole array of setups here. So like you've got your steering trim function, you've got your throttle trim function. You can adjust your brake setting on it and everything else, which this is what I'm using it for. So it really has no brake. Basically, the way I have it set, the way I've got it set up, if you're familiar at all with this Hobby Wing Fusion motor, it's basically a crawler motor, so there is no what they call sport mode. So you've just got forward and reverse. You've got no brake on it. You squeeze the trigger forward. When you let off if you squeeze it this way, the vehicle moves forward. You let off, the vehicle stops. I've got the drag brake set up enough where it stops on a dime. And then vice versa, I've got reverse, and I've only got it set up for 75% reverse because I don't need to go as fast in reverse as I do in forward. But I'm getting off on a tangent. Back to this radio here. So you can see all the different parameters and settings. You've got a monitor for your transmitter battery. So my transmitter currently is at 5.3 volts. You can adjust the alarm for it as far as when this drops down, which I'll show you right quick. So you click that, and then you can see here you've got your different screens. So you've got a model select screen, which I've only got one model paired to this thing right now. If you have a Spektrum receiver and it's the SLT receiver, it will not work with this. It has to be DSMR, like it states right here. It has to be DSMR compatible. If it's not, it will not pair to this radio. So just a FYI for anybody that's maybe running the some of the Armas or the little I have a little Typhon Grom, it will not pair to this this radio as it stands. I'll have to swap the receiver over, but I digress. Moving on. Model name. This is where you can go through and you can name your own model. So I changed it. I changed this one. I have it saved as. Let's go back and see. So yeah, I've got it track TRX4, and then I've got that one saved in there. But like I said, I tried to pair it, couldn't pair it. You can adjust your travel. So I've got my steering servo. I've got it basically where that steering servo will swing as far over to the left and right as it possibly can. And everything else is just left at 100%. So your sub trim adjustments, I really like this. I've got my steering servo isn't exactly centered up because of the splines and stuff like that. So I was able to adjust the sub trim and get it to track straight forward, no issues whatsoever, and everything else remains zeroed out. So, and then you've got your reversing. This is if you need to reverse a servo. Speed. This is your reaction time, as far as and as far as how quickly everything reacts and so forth. You can set a delay. your rate. This is how much you want of a given function, and so forth. Exponential, the reactivity, either on the far end, either on the far end or the near end of your respective servo. Your timer, that was the big timer that you had in the front. You can change that. I've got it set to, I think, 10 minutes, but you can go all the way up to I believe 30 minutes. And then this is your binding setup. So this is when you're going to initially bind this radio to a receiver. Then this is where you would go to. And then you've got your channel mixing, so forth, your AVC settings. Like I said, a lot of this stuff I'm still trying to figure out. So sorry if I don't get into more details of it, but that's essentially what I'm trying. So so there you go. Every timer, and then my steering rate. But what you can't, the unique thing that I've never seen with a radio personally, until I got this one, I've been out the game for a while, is the ability to actually set what you want on these respective channels on this radio. So like initially, this is your steering trim, this is your throttle trim, and then these two are empty along with all of these. The only one I believe that is pre-programmed is this G button, which operates your timer. So if you hit that button, your timer begins to count down, and it counts down from whatever you have it preset at, and there's no pausing and nothing like that. It just that starts the timer. So I'm gonna go ahead and power that down. But yes, so you can actually set that. You can take any one of these, and you can set it to operate a particular channel if you so desire. So like right now, I believe I've got this using for my throttle trim. This is for my steering trim. This is for my steering dual rate, and then this is to. I have to go back and check and see what I have this set up for, because I don't exactly remember. And then I just went ahead and defaulted these two to operate my auxiliary ports, which I've got 3 total, but you can see here I'm literally only using one for some wiring that I have here. I have this wire that's going here, and I'm using it for lighting, to operate this front light, to operate some rock lights, and then to also operate some lights I have on the shell of this vehicle. So one thing I will share with you guys concerning this, it's more concerning this receiver. Oh, the other thing I do like about it too is no bind plug. You push this button and you turn on the vehicle, and it automatically sets it in bind mode. So that's a very nifty feature, something that I hadn't seen. That last time I was involved with RC, you had a bind plug and the whole 9 yards there. But that's nice to have. But the one thing I will say is concerning this particular receiver is when you're going to try and pair it. When you're going to pair this receiver to this radio, just like you have to calibrate your ESC to the radio, you've also got to calibrate this receiver to the radio. So that's how it starts. First you bind it, and it goes through in the instructions, everything else. It's just you have to look for it. You have to physically look for it in the instructions as it relates to this receiver. Because when I bought this transmitter, it came with this receiver because I needed a receiver, because obviously I didn't have a Spektrum receiver on this vehicle. But yes, you have to go through a calibration process. So you basically got to show this receiver what the limits are on this. So you turn it on, you bind it, and then before you shut it down, you squeeze your throttle all the way in, pause. Push it all the way forward, pause. And then I believe you go all the way to the left, pause, let it return to center, all the way to the right, pause, let it return to center, and then you power everything off, and then you can go through and calibrate your ESC, whatever ESC you're running on this particular vehicle. My cat had to get involved. One of my cats had to get involved in this video. Apparently he, likes being on camera, whatever. But so yeah, I just wanted to give that as as something to look for if you decide to go with this radio and this receiver combo that's one of the things you will have to do with this particular receiver. I can't say about all the others, but this one for sure, it does have a special notation in the instructions with this transmitter about how to calibrate this receiver, so that way the AVC stuff works and everything else. And then, like I said, so it's basically you bind the radio, you calibrate the receiver, you power everything down, and then you can calibrate your ESC, and then everything will function like it's supposed to. And so that's about it. The pros of it was, for the most part, pretty easy setup. Like I said, the calibration of this receiver was drove me a little bit nuts. It took me about an hour to finally figure out where to look for it and everything else. But the setup is, setup's really easy. I got rid of the waterproof box on this thing because I just didn't like the idea of the antenna wire just kind of hanging out the receiver box. I wish Spektrum gave you a little bit more antenna wire, but they have their stuff set up how they have it set up. They've always been that way, and so it's just something you have to deal with. The only other con that I would say to it is that this radio is kind of on the expensive side. The radio, the transmitter, and the receiver combined were $200. So that is a bit pricey if you're on a pretty tight budget. There are more cost-effective options out there, but overall, I've been happy with it. I really like the feel of the radio, and I'm still trying to figure some stuff out on it. Like I said, my only other knock against it would be no backlight. So if I'm running at night, that would be really helpful for when I'm running at nighttime. I can see any kind of trim adjustments I'm doing on here. It would really be nice to have a backlit LCD, a backlit LCD screen like what I used to have on some of my previous transmitters. But otherwise, I mean, that's really about it. So let me know what you think in the comments, and that's about it. Y'all have a nice day, and happy RCing.